Thanks for joining us for another exciting episode of Film Reels, where we're going to be interviewing local filmmaker Rob Matsushita of Chapel. So don't look behind you, remain calm, and just listen to the sound of my voice as we watch this episode.
What's in the guitar case?
My guitar.
Okay. Just got a little cooler.
Your approval fills me with shame.
So that was a scene from Chapel, which is written and directed by Rob Matsushita, who we have in the audience today.
What the hell? Oh, yes. Hi.
Well, thanks for being here today, Rob.
Well, thanks for having me down, Justin.
So let's get this interview kicked off properly.
All right, then.
Where were you born?
Oh, God. I was born in Princeton, New Jersey, and then we immediately moved to Bolingbrook, Illinois, and stayed there for like 10 years, and then I moved back to New Jersey. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It's a lovely story.
Great.
So what was it like living in both New Jersey and Illinois?
It's funny. I think it's one of the reasons why I've managed to... I have this weird attitude towards the Midwest, in that I find it both fascinating and ridiculous at the same time. I like New Jersey. I like the East Coast. I enjoy that kind of attitude there.
Yeah.
And it's weird, when you come to the Midwest and people are very, the ethic is a little bit different. People are a lot more adamant about whether or not you do block parties, and maybe that's just a generational thing. Or people are a lot more, I don't know, I found people a little more passive aggressive, whereas in New York or New Jersey, they just didn't, this is the way I always used to describe it. In the East Coast, the attitude is just, I don't have time to make up a lie to justify myself to you. And in the Midwest, it's like, I care enough to make the time.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Were you involved with many school activities in high school or elementary school?
Yeah, I was involved in the, there was a art and literature magazine. I was the cartoonist for that for a while. I did the cartoon for the school newspaper for a while. Actually, just this last year, I re-met up with my friend Adam Spiegelman, who wrote that cartoon, and because I just did the art for it. Because that was one of the things I was actually originally considering doing, was being an artist, and then I decided art's hard. It's hard to draw.
Work and commitment.
Pens.
It's like,
how do they work?
It's like, who has time?
Yeah, who has time?
Those things run out of ink. Ticking time bombs.
Rapidograph? $20 for a rapidograph? I'll just buy a Bic and be done with it.
Awesome.
Oh, it's fun to do an interview when you've got a sinus headache.
All right. So what brought you out to Wisconsin?
Well, I was visiting my dad, who lived here, who used to live here in Madison, and I had just finished up I was going to the Essex County College in Newark, New Jersey, and I was getting my associate's degree, which is like a cute way of saying that my high school grades were so terrible that I would actually get like cassette tapes of the people laughing when I sent out my. Jeez, thanks, University of Indiana. So I went to Essex County College in Newark, New Jersey, where pretty much all you need is a social security number and a dream, and a couple $100 to give to the bursar's office, and ended up getting some hands-on training as far as doing a lot of stuff with their public access show, a building not unlike the one we're
We're in right now.
in right now,
Nice.
actually. And so getting to do a lot of that stuff, and then eventually getting my associate's degree in television production, technical, and then that looked actually so much better on a college transcript that I somehow managed to get into University of Wisconsin, Madison, a school prestigious enough that I honestly am still kind of shocked I actually got in, but got in, I did, and went for a communication arts major, and yeah, it doesn't matter how many years I was here to get that.
Yeah.
But I should be a doctor right now.
So you joined the Broome Street Theater in '96?
96, yeah. That was where I acted in the first show that I acted in there, called Please, Please, Please Love Me, which was written and directed by Rick Vorndren. I have to think about it because Rick Vorndren did two shows that I was in. One is Please, Please, Please Love Me, and the other one is Control Freaks in Love. And the reason why I'm confused about that is because he's since switched the titles of both stories, of both plays, because one kind of fit the other one. So I think it doesn't matter.
There's math involved in this.
It doesn't matter. There's math involved in this. At any rate, that was a show that I was in with my friends Joe Wiener and Len Maki, who I believe still acts in Racine. I think I haven't seen him in years. Wow. And Luke Delwich, who works for ETC. I think I don't know if he's back in Wisconsin. I know he was in England for a while. And then my friend Joe Wiener, who was a fairly popular actor at UW-Madison amongst the students, but he was actually one of the few UW-Madison theater students who would act anywhere. That, like he would act at Broome Street, he would act for other theater companies, which something that when you're an actor at the university theater, they discourage you from doing stuff elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's not, and I don't mean that as a negative, and I'm not, I'm not busting anybody on this one. It's more that they just, it's the same reason why UW tells you not to do any film projects on your own when you're a film major. It's because they don't want you to get an incredibly heavy caseload and then burn yourself out way too early. But, Joe just liked acting, and he ended up acting at Broome Street Theater, and then he invited me, and I'd wanted to get back into acting again. I'd done a lot when I was a teenager.
Nice. And
then I ended up being in this show, and then that led to one with Joel Gersman, and that one led to me getting a directing slot at Broome Street in 1998.
Nice. So your first Broome Street play that you were in was called Yoshi's Heroes?
That was the first one that I directed.
Directed.
I wrote and directed. It was called Yoshi's Heroes.
And what was that about?
That was it was sort of like if you took the 1960s show Hogan's Heroes, which was about American POWs in a German concentration camp, whatever thing, German prison camp, prisoner of war camp. Okay, where this one was called Yoshi's Heroes, that was about Japanese Americans who were in an internment camp, and it had the same kind of vibe. And you take that show, okay, from the 60s.
I'm with you.
Okay, and then you take that show and then do it as if it were the redo of that show in modern times as directed by Michael Bay, and making it a big action spectacular. That's what Yoshi's Heroes was.
That sounds amazing.
I think it looked better in my head than it did on stage, but it was actually it was a success. It was also what started my relationship with the theater critics of Madison, Wisconsin. At least one of whom never reviewed another play again.
He was like, "That's it.
She refused to review mine. She actually walked out during. I'm not going to name her because I'm not going to give her any more fame.
Yeah.
But she actually walked out during intermission, and she was sort of, and she just basically kind of decided I'm going to be a fireman instead or something. Like she was basically like, she was like, this show isn't ready and it's amateurish. And I was like, really, not ready and amateurish at Broome Street? Say it ain't so. And then when I actually confronted her on this in the paper that she writes for, which I also will not name,
Okay.
I confronted her about. I said, it's like, I think they would fire me if I just decided I didn't want to do my job. I'm just saying you were sent there for a reason. And her response was like, I was under no obligation to write any kind of review, and considering your entire family was there, I would have felt bad busting you out in front of your. It's like, were you gonna read the review out loud at the end of the show in front of my family? I don't want to tell you your business, but that just seems like it's kind of a tardy move. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting person. Yeah.
So that was my first experience with Broom Street.
Yeah, okay. One of many to follow.
Yeah. It was all uphill from there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I certainly didn't antagonize any critics beyond that point.
Okay, so tell us a story about getting a D.
Oh, God. I was wondering if you were going to bring this up. Yeah, so when I was at UW-Madison, and I ended up taking a classical film theory, which is a class directed by David Bordwell. Yes, that David Bordwell. I know that if you're not into like film theory or film studies, it's like you think I just made a joke like, haha, like we're supposed to know who that is. No, you are supposed to know who David Bordwell is. You actually kind of are supposed to know that. And
yeah.
I'm actually kind of ashamed of you if you don't know who Professor David Bordwell is. At any rate.
Yeah.
So I kind of equate it to, the cartoon about the 5-year-old or the 4-year-old kid who ends up getting inducted into the army, and has no idea at all what's in store, because this is that why they tell you not to take on too heavy a caseload.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't realize that you could drop a class. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Because this is how early on in my college career it actually was.
Yeah.
It was like, I just simply didn't know. And I got creamed. And I thought I could charm my way through the final paper. I think at one point I quoted William Shatner.
Lots of dots.
Yeah, and what was great about it is that, like, he started Mystery Science Theater 3000ing the paper. Like, in the margins, he at one point wrote, "I'm speechless." Like, what? Like, he wrote yuck under one. He wrote that after the William Shatner quote. And then he gave me a D on it, and it was a mercy D. He just, like he said at the end of it, it's like, okay, here's what I think happened. And what was really terrifying was he kind of Sherlocked his way through what I had done to write the paper. He's like, here's what I think happened. You took your notes from class and you used them as an outline. And then you took each book for each lecture and then you randomly opened them to a different page and then picked whatever jumped out at you and tried to shoehorn it into what your thesis actually was.
Yeah.
And you went through that one page by page. And then and it was like, oh my God, stay out of my head, David Bordwell. It's like, so basically what I'm seeing happened is you took on way too many classes and didn't realize you probably could have dropped this one. Because like I was in this class, it was this punky little like sophomore in a class filled with grad students. Yeah. I had no idea I could just simply have not taken the class.
Interesting.
Idiot. Idiot.
What did we learn in this, Rob?
I think we learned that, yes, it is sometimes good to play over your head. But there's also, but flying your jet into the sun is also playing over your head. Yeah. And I never use, and that's the funny thing is that, like being a film theorist and being interested in that kind of thing, it's like, it keeps you from reinventing the wheel. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I learned from David Bordwell is that, when one of the reasons why film theory exists is because you're just going to run into this exact same thing anyway. Mm-hmm. You're just going to keep having to rediscover on your own through trial and error all the stuff that if you'd done the reading, you would have discovered anyway. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how much of Bazin and how much of a name that I still say as if I just sneezed, like how much film theory, how much classical film theory mm-hmm. do I use in my everyday work? Mm-hmm. An amount.
Yeah. Okay, so when did you get involved with Skino?
Probably around 2005. I want to say.
Sounds right.
That seems right. I guess.
And what were some of the films that you did during that time?
Let's see. Around that time, I did something called Convictions that a friend of mine named Doug Reed wrote, and that I directed with Nick Drake.
Okay.
And then I edited together. It was a fake trailer. I think it's still somewhere on my YouTube page.
Nice.
And that was, I think, that may have been. That's the first movie I did with Emily.
Yeah.
She and I had been in a series of plays that I had written together that were called Disarming, I think that was the name of it, where she and I played ex-lovers who were also professional criminals, and that her incredibly jealous lesbian lover strapped a bomb to her chest that I had to disarm.
Yeah.
And that's how that relationship started.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And then you met some people. You met like Matt and Aaron.
Yeah, that's how I met Matt and Aaron through that, and that's how I eventually ended up doing Chad Vader.
Chad Vader.
Yeah.
And then you eventually went on to do Chapel with Emily.
Yeah.
The Wiskino
That would have been
stuff.
around that same time where I started, where one of the Wiskino things with the topic we pulled out of the hat was complicated, and so we did a story called Complicated. That was, in shooting it, as complicated, like more complicated than it ever needed to be. I based the entire thing around a special effect that I had no business even attempting to do. I had storyboards and a script, which put me ahead of most of the people who did Wiskino.
Yeah.
It was it was a arduous shoot, and that became the first Chapel episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
And history was made from then on
Yeah.
out. And Emily was telling us that there is an end game in play.
Yes.
And you're just working towards it. That you're on N right now, because I heard every episode starts with a letter. She said.
Every episode starts with a letter. That's how you know. Even though the episodes have not necessarily been shown in chronological order all the time, you can always tell what chronological order they're supposed to be in by the letter, by the first letter of it. So you know basically where those kind of.
I did not know this prior to today, so now
most people have not figured this out. That every episode has a letter. So yeah, we would end with Z. I know what Z stands for.
Okay.
I may have mentioned it to Emily and Nick at least once.
Okay.
I have an idea as to how it's going to end. But again. Anything can happen between here and there. As say the makers of Lost might be able to tell you, you can say you've got a game plan, but we know you don't.
It's like, what? No, really, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing more of your work in the coming few years.
Hooray.
And beyond. So yeah, thanks for joining us here today, Rob.
Well, thanks for having me. We talked a lot more about my college years than I was comfortable talking about.
Well, we like to bring that out in people.
Son of a. But I should mention that I've got the Capobianco and Princess, which is the spin-off series from Chapel, and I'm working on that one right now. Hopefully the first episode of that should be sometime in the next couple of months or so. It's been shot, I just have to edit it.
Yeah.
Capobianco and Princess is the further adventures of the two mobsters that team up with Chapel at the end of the first season finale. It's my friend Lee Potcher and his cousin Patty, who are a lot of fun to work with, and so the idea is that it's not as adventure-based as Chapel is. It's more sitcom. I've been kind of calling it, it's like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meets The Sopranos.
Okay.
So not a whole lot actually happens, but we are going to try and have a murder happen every episode. That's my attempt.
That's a good goal. I like that.
Here's a rundown of the contents of my purse when I left the house today. Lipstick, 3 wads of Kleenex, 400,000-volt stun gun, Altoids, mace, not pepper spray, fucking mace, diving knife, cell phone, and a .357 Colt Python. Why couldn't I be like other girls?
Like other girls.
Everyone knows your dad's a legal mafioso. Yeah, maybe my dad knows a few guys. And maybe I put a few people down. I just don't screw around when it comes to protecting my dad.
I honestly can't think of anything better to do with my time.
Hey, Dingleberry.
Say, Princess, I was just thinking about you. I've been wondering where you were for, the last 2 fucking years!
All right. Well, this has been another exciting episode of Film Reels. So we'll be coming at you next week with another exciting guest like Rob. Oh, I lost all my notes. So, so here we come at you, kicking, punching, in that order. And we'll see you guys next week. We got 2 of them in there.
Yeah, that's right.
That's interesting. I've never seen that happen before.
I heard that. Yeah.